Could this be the number one mindset block keeping you stuck? You want to listen to this episode and find out if this is what's keeping you stuck when you are trying to achieve your goals. We are going to be talking about what is the perception, what creates it, and then we're going to go to finding out the tools to shift it so that you can change your perception. And also, we'll probably be discussing a little bit of last episode, which I think is very important to watch because these two really go well together. And our last episode was about perspective. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and my co host is Jacqueline Francis. Hey, Jacqueline.
Hi Diana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm really excited about this because you're right, it goes hand in hand, and a lot of people confuse perception and perspective.
Yes, yeah. And so let's get started. Yeah, let's talk about that. What is perception? Oh my God. And then also I think in there, let's differentiate the two.
Yes,
Because you're right. It is something even like that. I mix it up so much, it's just similar. And it's good to know the difference because it just helps us understand ourselves better and really see what's going on.
exactly. So, what is perception? And perception really is how your mind interprets the world around you. So, it's more internal, whereas perspective is how you consciously choose to see a situation or the world around you. Perception is subconscious, they're automatic, whereas perspective, you will choose how you're seeing and experiencing the world. And a lot of times we don't realize that our perception is what's creating the way that we live because the programs, the way that we see the world is internal. And not everyone has that awareness to realize that something that they picked up from childhood is still allowing them to look at the world through that lens.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, how do we actually receive this information, right? Um, we perceive the world through our senses, but our perception is an internal filter. And so our brain will filter out things like beliefs, memories, cultural conditioning, past trauma, and then we assign meanings to all of those inputs. And so what happens is that when we assign meanings to these experiences, it becomes the way that we live our life, right? So our perception really is the subjective filter. It's not the objective truth.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And it's very interesting when you start reflecting on that because you start realizing like that you're filtering the world according to your past results.
Yeah,
And and that is like you said that subconscious you subconsciously do it because it's been programmed. Those neural links have been those paths have been created and it's just like second nature to you because
yeah,
that's what you've been trained to think and do. And so having even like that, like consciously actually make those changes is so important to be able
exactly.
to move forward and become aware of it, right? Become
Yeah.
aware of those changes and start making those changes.
Yes. So what shapes our perception, right? Our beliefs. So what you believe to be true becomes your filter. For example, people can't be trusted. You believe that. So then what happens? You spot betrayal everywhere.
Yeah.
Something happens, you're like, oh, I knew it. I knew that person couldn't be trusted. I knew that situation was going to be like this. Our emotional state.
Mhm.
When you're anxious or upset, your perception becomes more negative and reactive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Our
learning to
subconscious,
control that is so important, right?
right?
Yes.
Our subconscious programming. So most of our perceptual filters are formed between the age of 0 and 7 from parents, from school, from our society, from friends, things like that. And your identity and self-image. Because if you see yourself as not enough, you'll interpret neutral events as rejection or judgment. So you're just going to automatically think, oh my gosh, this person doesn't want to do this with me because I'm not a good person. So it's reflecting on what you, like how you see the world, your perception of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for example, if you think about like, so reality, an event happens. Let's say somebody didn't text you back or somebody didn't call you back. Now your perception of it could be, oh, I must have done something wrong. Or it could be, hey, they're busy and I trust that they're just going to call me later.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't react to events, we react to our perception of those events. Because every event is actually neutral. It has no meaning except the meaning that we give it based on everything that I talked about, our beliefs, our subconscious programming, our society, the way we look at the world. And then we create this life
Yeah.
and wonder why things aren't going our way.
Yeah, we create these feelings. Or I mean,
Yes.
it's from past, but it's we bring in these feelings that have like that, like you said, uh, a missed phone call. Someone doesn't answer your phone call. Such a neutral thing,
Yeah, it's so simple.
Nothing, nothing behind it. No emotional attachment. And then all of a sudden, oh, but they didn't answer my call. Oh my God, maybe they don't like me. Maybe, they're whatever, tell yourself these stories. And it's
Exactly.
funny when you start peeling away the emotional part of the story
Right.
and you start actually paying attention. What are the facts? Like what actually happened?
Yes.
And then you realize, wow, look at the story I built around these facts.
And I love that when we take away our perception of a story and we, like you said, look at the facts, it has so much more of a lesser emotional charge than us creating that story. Oh, she didn't like me because of this, and that's why she didn't do it. And you take all of that away and you're like, wait, it's just a story.
Yes. And also, not only you, when you take that away, it also, I feel it, you, you release those emotions in the sense like they don't bog you down. And also sometimes I feel like depending on how badly misinterpreted it goes, and also you're kind of embarrassed, like, why did I do that to myself? Why did
Yeah.
I think in that way? Why? Because it was, and you put like so much anxiety or stress or whatever onto it, building this story out that didn't probably even need to be there. And it's like when you go to the facts, and I think it's also, if something happens, way to either ask like, oh, hey, what happened, so that you don't like put yourself through all this anxiety and stress to find out. It's like not even, I don't know, it's like a waste of energy, like a waste of energy that you do to yourself, no,
Right?
and you
No,
exhaust yourself.
our perception is actually fluid. Like we can change it. So something as simple as like I failed, like oh I can't believe I failed at this, is looking at it from like hey, what could I have learned from this? Or they rejected me to that was just a redirection for me to look somewhere else or to be somewhere else. I'm stuck, right? You can shift your perception of that by looking at it from a lens of, hey, I'm being called to expand.
Yes,
How
100%.
can I move from this? So our perceptual shifts really, they create an emotional freedom once we're able to overcome what that perception is that we've held and move it into where we want to see ourselves and how we want to see the world. Because this is what happens in transformation, right? Your beliefs about yourself, about others, comes from your perception. Now, if you can't shift your outer world, then, you you won't be able to shift your inner world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or the way that you perceive it first. Um, Many people don't need a new life. They just need a new way of looking at it, life,
100%. I
a
completely
new
agree
lens.
with that. Yeah. And it's something that definitely takes time, but it is so important, and you just see those shifts, how and that's something actually I've always liked is, you, for example, you ask a question and you hear each person's point of view of it. And I find that very interesting because you can see like a question or even like that, even if you give a story and you say, like, what do you think was happening in this situation? And you'll notice that people will speak to obviously the things that have happened to them in the past, and their explanations will come in the way that would make sense for them because of what they've experienced in their past, right? And so it just goes to show you. I feel like I love asking those kind of like asking questions,
Yeah,
getting to know people in this way, because you really start seeing their perspective on things, right? And you just start seeing how they think, how they do things according to their perspective. And it's just very interesting because it also, I feel like it helps you, or at least it helped me, especially getting different people's points of view, to realize that my point of view, like that, like to make you realize that you can change your point of view also,
yeah,
like, oh my god, I thought things in this way, but this person saw it like this person saw it like this person saw it like this, and they could be so
right,
totally different that you're like, why am I seeing it in this way? Could it be good or bad?
right.
But you're just like, why did I see it this way? And if you do want to shift it, you're almost looking like, wow, these people saw it in this way, maybe I want to see it in that way or a different one. But then you start kind of realizing all these different other ways to see things that you never knew even existed. Could it be on the bad side or on the negative side? I've also had people tell me things where I was like, wow, you really went dark there, like I was like, my
It's
mind did
true.
not go there. What happened, But it's just like whatever in the past had happened, they clearly like, brought them to that side of things, right?
Exactly. A beautiful quote that I love is that you don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
the shift happens from within. When you start to look at the world through different lenses, that's what creates the change. So really nothing outside of you ever really changes. It's just the way you look at it.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting, actually. I feel like this actually has been happening the last 3 days to me. I read, no, it's very true. And I've actually literally been thinking about it. I'm like, that's so weird. Why are my eyes doing this? Was like, I've been for some reason feeling like not ugly, but like not feeling like my 100%, like good, especially because I've been working out and stuff and I've been feeling good. But this weekend for some reason didn't work out that way. And it was really funny because I look at myself and I'm like, nothing has changed in the way you look. What the hell are your eyes doing? Like I was,
Right.
it was very strange, and it was just something that happened to me this weekend where I was just not, and I was just like, clearly, I'm like, my mind is like not so good this weekend, right? And I'm just kind of seeing the negative things about me right now. And I was just kind of, I like had to do a self talk to myself. I'm like, what is going on right now? I'm like, you look the same on Friday, Thursday, the week, but for some reason this weekend, I just was like my I felt like I was like looking like a completely different person. And actually going back to that old Diana, like it was going back to
Right.
the old Diana look, and I was just like, that's so weird. It was very strange to me.
Oh
But
my
it just goes
gosh.
to show you, it's like from one day to the next, it's like you you just see things different in yourself or in the outside world, right? You just all of a sudden something that was beautiful all of a sudden does not look beautiful to you, and it's just kind of like that, like
Well,
where's your attitude at right now, right?
that's a great example of perception and perspective, right? The perception is coming up from old programming of like not feeling good about yourself or not looking a certain way, whereas like the perspective is that you're consciously choosing to say, stop this. This is why you had that self-talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop this. You're working out. You're amazing. You look great. So you're consciously shifting your perspective of the perception that
Yeah.
you once had about who you believe to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at it this way, which is a great analogy, perception is the filter on the camera. It's the autopilot mode that we default to. Whereas perspective is actually the angle that we take and that we choose to like take the shot from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's a great way of
Yeah.
explaining things.
So this is why for even for you, the perception it was so automatic. In the past, you might have not felt good within your body or,
And I probably
Yep.
wouldn't have even noticed it.
Yeah.
I would have just
Ex-
kind of stayed in my little negativity train going on
right.
until I decided maybe the next day I wake up in a good mood or whatever, maybe a few days, you never know, right? Whereas as
Exactly.
soon as I started seeing that self-talk and seeing myself, I'm like, that's so strange. I'm like, what's
You
going on right
consciously
now?
chose to see it differently,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, first is like the awareness came up automatically, which
Yeah.
is nice, where I was just like, why am I doing that to myself? And then it was okay, time to start shifting it because obviously we
Yeah.
don't always feel our 100% best, and we will have these downfalls, and it's all about like that. Well, at least can I be aware of it and start shifting it and start telling my mind this isn't the reality that you're seeing, so time to change
Exactly. And you touched on exactly how what you need to do to be able to shift your perception,
that. Mhm.
right? The number one thing is having that awareness. So, us talking to you guys about the difference between perspective and perception should help you to bring awareness to your mind. Like, why am I making this mean something? You question yourself
Yeah.
when you start to feel that you're looking at the world or you're looking at a situation and it's not making you feel good, because
Mhm.
that's an indicator that something is not right within your body if it doesn't make you feel good, right?
Yeah.
And that alone creates a space between the event and your interpretation of it when you ask that question. And I'm going to say it again. And that's, what am I making this mean for myself?
Uh,
Number one, awareness.
yes, yes.
Number two, we question the filter. I don't know if you know who Byron Katie is, but she has these questions that you need to ask yourself before you jump into thinking about a situation or reacting to a situation. And these four questions is it true? Number two, can I absolutely know this is true? Who am I when I believe this? And number four, who would I be without that thought? And if you give yourself a moment to just consider those things, and this process can get faster the more you use it, or you can reflect on it at the end of your day and ask yourself these questions. And if it's no, then you know that that's not the way you want to be looking at the world or holding on to that belief, because it's creating something within you that's not serving you in any sort of way.
Yeah. And even if it's a yes, it should be an indicator. Why am I acting as a victim right now?
Yeah, what meaning am I giving this, right?
Why do I need to go negative?
Right.
what is going on that I'm feeling? And because you may want to, you do want to sooner or later. I feel like you start tapping into your like what happened, back then. Like what am I bringing? Because also my one of my favorite things that I love, Joe Dispenza says is, and I'm very bad at like saying like regurgitating information, but it's basically like, emotions are a record of the past.
Yes.
And I love
Yes.
that. So it's like if you're feeling a certain way now, it's because you felt that way in the past and you
Yeah.
learned that this thing. And it's like even just going back, and if you can go back, but going back sometimes helps to find out what that is, because then you can start also nailing down those problems, because sometimes it's just like, okay, I need to work on this or I need to work on that, and like that in the moment, like that, because it was literally nothing in the weekend was bad, nothing was going wrong, but for some reason my image was just like I was just not liking myself for some reason, and it's like sometimes things, it's just like, I don't know what happens, like, but it's just like something comes, and it's not as if anything happened bad in the weekend, nothing like that, and just a feelings start coming, and then you're just kind
Right.
of like, okay, well, let's at least start ironing out what, like, why that's happening,
Right.
get
Yeah.
and get out of that.
Because we may not know. And like you said, people, there are some people that can just start, they're having a great day and then all of a sudden something could trigger them, something could not, and the feeling can just arise. And you're just like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling so low right now? I'm not really sure what it is. But in those moments, giving yourself grace, becoming aware that you're feeling this way, giving yourself a moment to let the emotions past, and then maybe, saying to yourself, okay, what can I do to get out of this? Do I want to continue to believe this? What best feeling emotion can I move into so I don't remain in this place?
Mhm. And it's I think another tip that I really like as a tool to help push you forward into getting out of that is
Yeah,
what small actions can I take to make myself not believe whatever it is that I believe. So sometimes also you have to take some sort of actions like that. Let's say self-image, maybe putting on makeup or just like getting your hair done because you just like need something. You need to like sometimes just do something, whatever it is, to counteract that.
you need to take an action to
Yeah.
almost like the word that's coming up for
Disprove
me is
it, right?
disconnect. Yes, yeah, exactly. To
Disprove
disprove it.
that. You're like,
Yeah.
you are this, you are that, or at least you're working in that direction. So prove it to yourself, And sometimes, like, the smallest little action doesn't have to be huge, could be something like a minute, 5 minutes, but that little tiny micro action. And sometimes it obviously compounds because you're like, then you start feeling better, and then you may want to do something else, and it starts compounding, and then you're back, and then you've kind of kicked yourself out of that
You
negative
have, yeah.
perception.
But it
So
also shows that sometimes those beliefs within us are really strong, and because they're subconscious, they can just come up. They can
yeah.
come up so subtly if you're not aware of what's happening.
Mhm.
Because if you weren't someone that could identify what was going on, you would have probably stayed there and been like, oh, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything, I feel so horrible. And you would have created this self-talk
Yeah.
that would back up the story. And then you would have lived there for the rest of your day, and then there was your weekend, right?
Exactly. Then it just ruins it. Because you're just stuck in that negative attitude or just bringing yourself down. That victim mentality
Yeah,
starts coming out.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
so yeah, those awarenesses I think are so important. And it takes time. I feel like it's been many years. So I feel like this thing happening to me where I'm becoming aware is something that has been time of practice.
Exactly.
And it's been something where it's sometimes, I mean, at the beginning, I feel like you notice it way after the fact.
You do. It'll
And
come to you
then
like sometimes days after.
yeah. And then it starts coming closer, maybe right after. And then right after it happening, you're like, oh, why did I do that? And then it's like during the process, that all of a sudden during the process. But then, for example, during the process, you still can't stop yourself, but at least you're becoming aware of it. I noticed that happened to me where
Yes.
I'd be like, Diana, why are you doing this? Well, I'm still going in my little negative spiral. And Diana should be stopping and while I'm going through. And then I was just like, okay, clearly that didn't work, but at least I was aware.
Yeah.
you know?
At, at least you were aware, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like it can feel difficult in the beginning because you're just training your mind to become aware of what's going on.
Mhm.
But as you said, it gets easier the more you practice it, the more you do it. And then the reframing, the shifting of the mindset becomes quicker.
Mhm.
So, to anyone who's listening right now, give yourself some grace. It's okay because this is very new information a lot of times that you're hearing. And if you've built up a pattern of doing something for so long in a certain way, it's going to take some effort to be able to choose a different route.
Yeah. Especially when you're not used to it. Because I mean, everything is easy when you've already done it a million times. And
Yeah.
right. And it takes time and yeah, that grace, that patience to yeah, to just be able to make the change. And like that, the littlest one, like doesn't have to be automatically. I think because some of us are impatient, no? Sometimes you're just like, oh, I learned a new trick, done. I want to get it done, and then you get so disappointed when you can't get it, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
but at least, for example, you became aware because that's
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
step one to,
Step one. Because
yeah,
remember, your body is so used to reacting, right? Like your perception, it's fast, it's instantaneous. So you're just gonna like react. Whereas perspective, it's gonna take a minute for you to, you know, ask that question to yourself for a moment, right? So you're responding. You're because you're consciously choosing a different way of responding, right? You're not just like in this reactive state and your programming is causing you now to look at the world or give this thing a meaning. Your perspective is shifting. So that way it's taking a little bit longer because you're asking the questions, you're giving yourself a moment. So it's a slower process because of the reflection and the reframing until you get to a point where, it becomes so automatic because you're moving from one way of being to another way of being.
Yeah, 100%. Any other tools before we get going that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so bringing back to awareness, you cannot change what you cannot see. So this is where awareness becomes the number one step, right? And like your perception creates how you are and who you are. There really is no other way around it. Now, when you change your perception, you're changing your experience of life. So you don't necessarily have to go out there and, bungee jump to have this experience or, you know, do travel to, those are great experiences. But if you want to just start right here, right now, it's being able to shift the way you see the world and yourself. Everyone lives in their own perceptual reality of how they perceive the world to be and what their perceptions are of the world. And no two people can see the world the same. So some other ways is regulating your nervous system. When you start to calm the body, and you can do that through several techniques. Number one, EFT tapping. And maybe me and you in a later series can share more about EFT tapping and take our viewers through a process on how to do it. Um, Deep breathing. Sometimes just, 5 seconds of just taking a really deep breath, fill your whole belly and lungs with air and just let it out slowly. And you can do that anywhere.
Yeah. And it
Grounding.
really relaxes you too. Like
It
it's also
does.
so
It
helpful
totally
to
just
kind of
brings you
clear
down back into your
your
body.
mind. Yeah.
And if you don't have time for any of that, maybe at the end of the day, just journaling on how to feel calm,
Mm-hmm.
right? On calmness. Another thing is working with tools that can help you reprogram your subconscious mind. So maybe hypnosis, maybe visualization, doing some identity work. So like, who would I need to be if I had to experience this situation as a different version of myself? How would that person handle it? Or even looking at your role model and say, how would X and X have handled this situation?
Mm-hmm.
That also can help you shift your perception of things.
Just be
Um,
curious about yourself, and all this
yes,
really help because I think when you're curious about yourself, you also don't get into these other negative mindsets of like too much pride or getting offended
yes,
because you may even just get offended thinking about yourself and then you're just like no, like that's not me and I'm not like that, and it's like what if
yes,
I am and what's wrong with that because I'm now wanting to change and become
yeah,
a better version of myself instead of closing my eyes to it.
yeah. We
That
have a hard time of accepting like truth about ourselves, right? We don't want to face it. It's almost like, that's not me, no way.
because also I think we think in absolutes. I think
Yes,
it's like, okay, this is negative part of me, and you think like the maximum negativity of that specific thing, and then so when you're thinking that, you're like, I'm not that way,
yeah,
and it's just like, but there's so many different grades of it, and it doesn't mean you're like the extremely most negative or like worst thing, but it's always like we all have it. There's always little things we have to change in ourselves to become better,
yeah,
and so it's just also that I feel like I don't know. For me, the curiosity is really what helped me because
it is.
like, what made you think that way? Why did that happen?
Yeah, you get curious about yourselves in every aspect of your life and who you are.
Mhm.
Most important thing, work with a coach. I think that is your fastest way to change and to shifting out of where you are to where you want to be. Because having that person there to help you identify and for you to go to without any judgment that can hold the space for you can amplify your results.
I love that. Yeah, actually, I feel that my transformations happened exactly say like having that coach because
Mine too.
I've noticed people who don't have coaches actually, and you're willing to listen to them because they are coming to you with a blank slate. So it's not as if because you'll maybe talk to someone that knows you, like, oh, but they're saying that because of this or that, where it's like, no, this is
Yes.
a coach that doesn't know you from anything, and so it's like it's truthful, but it's honest, and they're telling you how it is,
There's no
and
biases.
yeah. So it's just nice because I think you're always willing to listen to someone that you don't have history with, I think sometimes, right? Because sometimes you think like, oh, they're just saying that because of this, because then you're bringing in your history with them too, right?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
they're saying that because they're that way, and you're like, stop.
Yeah,
It's not about you. Like relax, you know.
exactly. So, I mean, there's so many things that can help, but you have to take the first step.
Completely agree. I love it. Any final comments before I go that you wanted to share?
Keep watching. We're sharing lots of tips, and I hope you're able to know the difference between perception and perspective and use those in your everyday life to be able to change and to be able to create that transformation in your life.
And don't think of actually also as change as hard work, because I think that's another thing that people actually get very nervous about, and I think what stops people from wanting to change or wanting to evolve is because they think of it as hard work and it's going to be stressful, or you're going to put all these negative feelings to yourself.
Right.
As it Like, again, see it as a neutral thing, right? It's just
Yeah.
enjoy the process and see
Yes.
what amazing things happen, and you don't and just don't have no expectation that you're going to change in a day. It's a lifetime actually.
It is. It's a
uh,
lifelong process.
yeah, it's a
Exactly.
lifelong process, so it's just like, why not enjoy the process and
And
find be
exactly.
curious about yourself and trying to find out what amazing things you can do.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's not about the end result. It is about the process of who you're becoming.
Mhm.
So yeah, what a great
Yeah.
episode.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline, for coming on. Like always, we always have so much fun. And we'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye, Jacqueline.
Bye
Bye.
for now.